Today I thought I could talk about integrating like our darkness or integrating unconsciousness. And it's something I feel quite passionate about because, I've had growing up, I had my fair share of addictions, and I talk about in other videos how I used pornography in the past and was kind of pretty much addicted to pornography, and like how that really attunes you to more of an unconscious, like it tunes your mind and your energy to more of moving through life more unconsciously. And also, I think darkness and unconsciousness oftentimes gets misunderstood. And so feeling like this is always feeling like this might really help people see things a little bit differently. And so where I'd like to start this talk off with was I was in the shower maybe like 2 days ago, and this memory came to me. And it was a memory of when I was 18. And during that time, I pretty much lived in avoidance of of my feelings, or living in avoidance of really even just spending time with Luke, and would watch a bunch of movies, play a bunch of video games, use pornography, and jerk off a bunch as a way of like not really spending any time connecting with myself, because I felt so unworthy and kind of hated myself at the time. And so when I was 18, the memory that came to me was I was watching a movie, Perks of Being a Wallflower, and I'm watching this movie and feeling like, or having the thoughts of, I need Emma Watson. She's so beautiful. I need her. And and now, like, looking at that, like recognizing that isn't the most conscious thoughts to be having, and recognizing that unconsciousness is always anchored in some level of not really grounded in reality, and the feeling of, I need someone, I need this person. Like with Emma Watson, I think it was kind of coming from the perspective of someone with high status who is like well regarded in society, will give me the worth and value that I'm not really seeing in myself at the time, which is where the I need was coming from. And and so the the question I think to ask ourselves with, I need a partner, I need a person, is when I'm having that level of codependency speaking through me, is that my own wound of codependency? Is that my own wound of unworthiness? Or is that me just attuned to the collective wounds of unworthiness and codependency, and I'm identified with codependency and not having worth enough to be able to perceive thoughts from the unconscious collective of humanity. And I think that's really where like the question becomes interesting, is, are my thoughts even mine, or am I just harmonized to a certain level of unconsciousness through the choices I'm making every day, that and identified with that enough where I'm perceiving thoughts of the collective unconsciousness as my own, and my identity to my unworthiness, and my identity to codependency actually is what harmonizes me to the collective wounds of humanity. And so I think it's an interesting thing to look at, because what if your thoughts are not yours? And what if the pain you've gone through is not yours either? It's pain you've experienced, but that doesn't make it yours. It's just something you've experienced. If you ate ice cream, the experience of eating ice cream doesn't mean that ice cream is yours forever. It's just an experience you had. And can we relate to our pain in the same way? Because oftentimes pain circles or remains unhealed within us, or circles in our body and our field for how identified we are to pain. And when we can let go of our grasp of pain and say, this pain, instead of thinking this pain says something about me, recognizing this is pain that I've just experienced, and it doesn't have to be mine. And when I can actually let go of, this is my pain and this pain says something about me. And sure, our experiences do define who we are, but but pain doesn't have to be part of your story forever. And recognizing if I can let go of my identity to this pain is actually when I'm going to step into a little bit of greater healing and even find my way out of this pain a little bit quicker. And a practice I do when I have a disturbing thought, or like maybe even feel something that doesn't really feel like mine, or it doesn't really align with the consciousness I'm trying to embody at the time, I'll just say, "Thank you, universe, for showing me the distorted thoughts, or the unconscious thoughts my light is healing out of this planet." And the moment you say that, your mind will go back to like pure blank stillness. Or you could even probably do it with like some softer feelings of, might not make all feelings go away, but you could try it of, "Thank you, universe, for showing me the anxiety my light is healing from this planet." And noticing how your anxiety, where your anxiety goes when you say that. Because in truth, the pain we experience was just the pain our ancestors didn't want to deal with, and they took their pain out on us as a way of saying, "I can't face and feel this. Let's see how you do with it." Like pain is something that just keeps on getting passed down generation after generation until someone is willing to go, "I'm going to face and feel this. I'm going to turn this pain into beauty. I'm going to take my pain as a reason to love myself more and to be grateful for the experiences I've had," because we're only a slave to our pain when we are unwilling to grow from the pain we've experienced, when we're unwilling to say, "The ways that people kicked the shit out of me when I was younger is only going to inspire me to be the most empowered, whole, and loving version of myself." And when we can take that level of responsibility for our life and the experiences we've gone through, is when pain no longer has power over us, and it actually becomes our greatest gift, not our greatest curse. And recognizing that in order for me to heal this pain, all I really need to do is face and feel it. And when I hear disturbing thoughts, right, we could do the first practice I said, or you could also just say like, "Thank you, distorted thoughts, for being with me here with me. I love you, I see you, and I'm grateful for your experience. I'm grateful to be able to experience you, and thank you for reminding me and teaching me how to love parts of myself that are uncomfortable, that I don't want to love." Or, "Thank you, anxiety, for being here with me. Thank you, anxiety, for teaching me how to love something I deem as uncomfortable, how to sit with something I don't want to sit with, and how to remind me to listen to the message of anxiety of I might need to slow down, move a little bit slower, or become curious, is there something out of alignment in my life, or that's causing me more harm than good, whether that's relationships or choices that I'm making that are secretly feeding my anxiety? Or am I just in the wrong career, in the wrong relationships, and I don't want to look at that, but that's really what is causing me to feel these underlying feelings of anxiety?" And so, really recognizing that your distorted thoughts, your uncomfortable feelings, is actually what moves you into unconditional love. And we only run from our distorted thoughts and distorted feelings for how much we avoid stepping into unconditional love. And that is a perspective that I feel like is a little nuanced. And and also recognizing that you can think of like the distorted thoughts I'm having is just is a sign of how much harm that's still embodied in my choices, whether that's me liking to go out and drink on the weekends and get really fucked up, or me overdoing technology and scrolling a bunch and checking out, or ways that I subtly am, or me eating too much sugar during my day, and ways I subtly don't take care of my body, because any type of harm we harmonize our body to through our choices, then allows more unconsciousness to interact with us, whether it's, and it allows us to perceive our unconsciousness more and also the unconsciousness of the collective. And you could almost think of the choices I make day to day kind of like set me at, like, imagine we're a fish in the sea and it sets me at a certain depth of the ocean. And the more choices I make that are harmful is going to attract certain type of fishes, which you could think of as certain different type of people, and it's also going to harmonize me to more harm, which means my thoughts will be more distorted, less grounded in reality, and probably a lot more unconscious in general. And there's nuances to that perspective as well, because sometimes you're going to be incredibly conscious and just come across a person who isn't that nice to you, and that's just, the world's a jungle, and that's part of it. Another part of it is, and really, I like moving away from things are my fault for happening. We have responsibility in the choices we make, but sometimes things are just going to happen. Like we meet someone who isn't that nice, that are just out of our control. Like, for an example, like one time I went to get on the train and someone was trying to get off and they just shoved me out of the way. And I wouldn't say that experience represented the level of like unconsciousness I was at the time. I just came across someone who was a little impatient, aggressive, and grumpy. And so recognizing that it's not all my fault, but also that my choices do determine the type of people I attract. They are going to determine what kind of thoughts I have going in my head. And even a greater nuance to this is, I might have an incredibly evolved heart and just a little bit of a less evolved mind, which is why I might be experiencing more negative thoughts or distorted thoughts. Or I could have like really evolved lower chakras and my upper chakras could be less evolved. And again, would be a reason why we might be experiencing a little bit more negative self-talk, or might be experiencing a little bit more unconsciousness in our mind. And so it might not be a sign of I'm doing everything wrong, but just something to be curious at. If I choose, make a little bit better choices and treat myself better, how does my experience change, and what kind of do I attract different people when I do that over a couple months of anchoring those new choices into my life. And also thinking about like that example with the ocean of, if the depths I if thinking about it in regards to depth and like vulnerability, and the deeper you dive in the ocean or the more you rest in vulnerability, right, the less kind of the more spacious and empty the ocean typically becomes. And what if, like, if we want our mind to be more quiet, or we want to feel greater peace in our body, what if it's a real question of how vulnerable can I be with myself? Because vulnerability is the opposite of avoidance, and vulnerability is when we're vulnerable with ourselves and create art from our vulnerability or share about our experiences with others, is what's clearing those wounds of those experiences out of our body, and it's what's creating like a deeper depth within us and a deeper, more open spaciousness within our mind and heart that will feel more peaceful naturally. And with unconsciousness lives in not talking about its pain, and it also, our pain is only a curse for how little we share our experiences, because when we can share our experiences, inspire others, or inspire others to not take the same missteps we made, what did we just spread but healing and greater mindfulness to other people? Which is like, if we really want to see this world evolve, or to everyone to live in community and everyone have enough resources, we have to be willing to spread consciousness. And that is through the love we give ourselves, the love we give to others, and also through our vulnerability. And our vulnerability will create greater depth in your mind and heart that will allow your mind and heart to be more peaceful and empty in general, because oftentimes our mind is only the negative distortive thoughts we were experiencing are usually limbic loops or loops of past pain of how, like, let's say someone said, I suck, that you suck and they hate you or that you're the worst. And if we hear that often enough, our mind can replay that in our head regularly because we start to believe that about ourselves. And when that's why I talked about identity. If you can let go of your identity to maybe, like, I've heard people talk about how they think they're a sad sack as or they're a loser, or sometimes I feel like I suck and I'm a loser. And it's the identity to those ideas that actually keep those words circling in your head. And if you can share that pain with others of being like, sometimes I feel like I suck and I'm a loser, it's actually it's the vulnerability that will face that pain for you and help clear it out of your body. Because whenever you're speaking about pain is like an active use of transmutation. And also it will help others know that you're human. And when people know that you're human, they can meet you better and they can understand you deeper. And it actually, vulnerability will deepen your relationships, which again kind of works with depth, the depth of the ocean. If we want real depth in our relationships, we have to be willing to be vulnerable. And if we want deep stillness in our mind and heart, we have to be willing to be vulnerable. And to kind of close this out, I thought I could talk about one last perspective of like the Buddha under the Bodhi tree. And, the Buddha under the Bodhi tree was sitting with demons. And one, I just want to say the Buddha under the Bodhi tree is a metaphor. It's not, it's not if you sit 49 days under a tree that you're going to reach enlightenment, because, I've meditated for incredibly long periods of time, and that wasn't exactly my experience of reaching enlightenment. So can we relate to Buddha under the Bodhi tree, one, as a metaphor, but two, with the Buddha, like, I think the modern perspective of this teaching would be the Buddha was sitting with these demons, and the demons might say things like, I freaking hate you, Buddha, you suck and you're awful, which are kind of like the voices we hear in our head. And the Buddha acknowledges that and goes, thank you for sharing your pain with me. I love you and I see you, demon. And it's an honor to be able to remind you of the innocence you've forgotten. And that demon would go, ooh, get away from me. Because that's like any dark entity or demon lives in avoidance and lives to be lost and identified with their pain. And when you share with them something opposite of pain, like if that demon said that to you and you said, fuck you, demon, I hate you, get away from me, right? Which is oftentimes how people relate to their mind or their uncomfortable feelings, right? That's just creating more pain, and it's helping that demon stay lost in greater unconsciousness. But if we can meet the demon with love, all demons really are wounded inner children. All dark entities really are wounded inner children, whether it's our wounded inner child or the unconscious collective's wounded inner child. And they share distorted feelings or distorted thoughts with you, or things that are really uncomfortable or hard to sit with, as a way of trying to keep you pushing them away, or a way of trying to go like, I hate you, get away from me thoughts. But that's just building more pain. When you're relating to separation, which is any unconsciousness or pain, with greater separation of fighting fire with fire, right? It's just fueling the pain that demon is addicted to. And or if we're relating to that with people, it's fueling the pain that person's addicted to. And so when we're willing to say, I see your pain, I love you, and it's an honor to be able to be it's an honor to be different and remind you of your innocence, rather than meet you in the pain you're showing me how lost you've been hurt in, or like something along those lines. We can talk to our thoughts like that. We can talk to the uncomfortable feelings, the sexual fantasies we have like that, and just say, I see you, unconsciousness, I love you, I hear you, I'm grateful for you being a reminder of me how to love deeper, right? all of a sudden those demons just become wounded inner children crying for our attention. And the more we remind those disturbing thoughts of the love they've forgotten, the more they remember their innocence and the less of how they were hurt and destroyed by people in our past. And even like maybe another demon says like something like, you, like, Buddha, you should go do this orgy with me next week. And the Buddha might say something like, that really wouldn't be honoring healthy boundaries for my body, and would be or and wouldn't be honoring the worth and value I see in myself of being able to be picky about who I share physical intimacy with. And so recognizing that our unconsciousness typically yells the loudest within our mind, and also, it's going to share perspectives that in our mind think like a good idea, but then when we're in the experience, we always go like, oh, these fantasies I had. Like, if you play out fantasies, you realize they never feel as good in the moment as you thought they were going to feel. And they also tend to make you feel a little less worthy, or a little bit more hurt, or a little bit more like you need to take care of yourself after that experience, rather than filling you up with goodness, wellness, and feeling like you really are serving your greatest well-being. And so recognizing that the desires and cravings I have, the fantasies I have, sometimes might be things for me to sit with, like Buddha under the Bodhi tree. And if it's really keeps on circling, maybe I can draw about it. Maybe I can write a song about the fantasies I have, as a way of pulling those fantasies back into the light out of our body, because they can only circle for how we avoid them in our mind. And so, can we sit with our cravings? Can we sit with our desires and fantasies? And, some desires of like, oh, I would like to have ice cream tonight, that's okay. But like recognizing there's like degrees, and like some desires and cravings are just meant to be a reminder of, this might be coming more from my unconsciousness trying to be fed, or my unworthiness trying to get me to act on an experience that will remind me of my unworthiness, rather than something that's actually going to be serving my well-being. And when we can relate to unconsciousness like the Buddha, and either say, I love you, I see you, thank you anxiety, thank you depression, you are a gift teaching me how to love something I don't want to love, or thank you sexual fantasies, I see you, and I'm so grateful to learn how to love deeper through the sexual fantasies I'm experiencing. It sounds a little crazy, but when we relate to life like that, we start to have much less demons and dark entities within us or haunting us, and we start to remember more and more of our beauty and innocence that was just waiting to reclaim itself through us stepping into our power of learning how to love the parts of ourselves that have been hurt. So I hope that helps. Thank you for listening. Love you. Bye.